Hello, I'm Joanne Turner for OMA TV, and today we're in Dublin reporting from the Open Mobile Alliance Big Data Seminar. Today's seminar brings together thought leaders in the area of big data and how it relates to mCommerce and mobile advertising by discussing the ecosystem and making recommendations about the potential for new standards of best practices, which help stimulate innovation, market growth and greater end-user satisfaction. The morning speakers have included a keynote presentation from Ajit Joka, founder of Future Text, who put big data into context and explained what it means to consumers, regulators and the industry's future. He was followed by Mark Little from Ovum, who looked at personal data and privacy in the mobile context, Philip Sheldrake from Euler Partners on how social data and big data are connected, and then some great examples of consumer data used from Tom Wallace of Sitwell and Francesco Calibria of IBM Research. Let's hear from some of this morning's speakers.
It was a very interesting conference. The overall theme of the conference was about standardization, big data, and what OMA could do in that space, I think. The most interesting thing I found about the conference was it fulfills a gap which is not being addressed very well so far. In that we talk about big data, we talk about the potential of mobile, but still there is not a clear kind of synergy as to how these two ideas fit together. And of course the mobile ecosystem is quite complex. It looks at the handset vendors and the operators and so on and so forth. So I think it's a complex problem being addressed under the framework of standardization, which is the most interesting thing in this conference.
What I wanted to leave the delegates with is the idea that when they are considering standards, when they're going through the standards process, they should always have in mind this incredible potential value we have for social media in the 21st century. It can literally liberate people's lives. We can allow them to contribute value in ways that they were never allowed to do in the 20th century. And if they can just have that taking up a part of their mind during the standards setting process, and say, are we helping that or hindering it? That's what I'm hoping I've left them with today.
The session after lunch saw interesting presentations from some of the leaders in the mobile code sector and how this impacts big data. This included the state of the industry in the mobile scanning by Mike Weir from Scanbuy, an interesting perspective on QR codes from Terence Eden of Telefonica, and how digital product information benefits consumers from Malcolm Bowden of GS1. I got the chance to catch up with some of the speakers after the sessions to talk through the highlights of their presentations.
Well, standards have been, I'd say, kind of barcodes is really a really good example of where standards led. So with 1D barcodes, it was standardized before it was popularized. With 2D barcodes, our company, as well as a number of others, were the ones who helped draft the first specs on how 2D barcodes were going to be resolved and dealt with. So standards have been involved since day one. I think that when we're talking about going forward for things like big data, now that we're starting to get so many scans and so much data that comes from every scan, the real questions are, how do we try and make it so that it gets to scale even faster? How do we ensure that, for example, when you scan a 1D code, that right now it's best efforts? So I tell you what I know about that product. Now, I try and be a good corporate citizen and give you really good information. But if you released with 3 of your friends, you put together a scanner this weekend and someone downloaded it, you could make that 1D scan turn back anything you want. There's no rules. So standards could really help to ensure that we got a level playing field for some of the basic factual data that people need to make a buying decision or a consumption decision about a product that they're looking at.
The thing to remember about QR codes is they store text, and lots of people just use them for storing URLs, which is fine, so you scan it and it takes you to a website. But you can do so much more. There's click to call, so you can put a phone number in there. Once you scan the code, you don't need to type in a number, you scan it, your phone starts dialing. You can do the same with text messaging as well. So you scan a code and your SMS app is already pre-populated with the phone number and the message that you need to send. We see the same for email, for mapping information, for Wi-Fi login. So rather than fiddling around typing in a huge passcode on your iPhone, you can scan a QR code and it says connect to this Wi-Fi network, use this password. And we're also now seeing them used for events and contact information. So scan my business card and you will get my contact information straight to your phone, or you will get my birthday saved straight into your calendar.
To round up an interesting day of debate, the final session was on standards and big data. Keping Lee from Huawei set the scene for a panel session which all presenters from the day took part in. The next steps for standards, best practices and recommendations were identified. I managed to talk to Gary Jones, chairman of the OMA board, at the end of the seminar to round up his thoughts on the day.
Well, clearly, there's a need for collaboration between a standards development organization like the Open Mobile Alliance and the vendors and the users of big data, the people who are creating this capability. We heard some amazing presentations about the need to have user data be packaged in one place and give the user the ability to determine how that data is collected and how it's used. Create a trust environment for the operator as they have the ability to collect this data. We also heard a great presentation on the need to make the data usable. You know, data itself is nothing, but the ability to use it and pick and choose what data points you need for a particular function is very valuable. And those are the enablers that OMA can help with. So I was very pleased with it. I thought it was a great session today.